The challenge begins. The spaceport on Outpost Vega 9 buzzed with activity. It was a hub of trade, diplomacy, and military cooperation between different species. Among the many alien visitors, two towering Smirk warriors stood out. The Smirk twins, Vec and Tor, were nearly 8 feet tall, their muscular frames wrapped in dark combat armor. Their species was known for their incredible physical strength, coming from a high-gravity homeworld that made them naturally superior in raw power. And today, they had only one goal: to prove once and for all that humans were weak. The arrival of a human soldier. Sergeant Jack Carter walked into the open training grounds, completely unaware of the Smirk twins' presence. He had just finished a long shift and was looking forward to some rest. But the moment he entered, the laughter started. Vec and Tor stood among a group of alien soldiers, their voices loud and mocking. "Look at this one, Tor," Vec chuckled, motioning toward Jack. "A tiny human. They really send these creatures into battle." Tor smirked, crossing his thick arms. "It is amusing. Humans pretend to be warriors, but they are fragile." The other aliens laughed, nodding in agreement. Jack raised an eyebrow, but remained calm. He had heard this kind of talk before. Every time humans met a new species, they were underestimated. "You got something to say to me, big guy?" Jack asked, his voice steady. The Smirk twins turned toward him fully. "Yes, human. We say you are weak," Tor declared. "We have seen your species try to fight. You rely on weapons, machines. You do not know true strength." Vec grinned, stepping closer. "You would not last a single round in our training pits." Jack sighed, cracking his knuckles. "That's so. The challenge is set." Vec nodded, looking smug. "A simple test. A challenge of strength. We lift, we fight, we endure. The weak fall, the strong stand." Jack smirked and glanced around. A few human soldiers had gathered, watching the interaction with interest. "All right, I'll take your challenge." The Smirk twins burst into laughter. "Oh, the little human accepts. This will be amusing." One of the human soldiers, a medic named Reyes, stepped forward and whispered to Jack, "Are you sure, Sergeant? Smirk muscles are denser than steel. Their world has 10 times the gravity of Earth." Jack grinned. "Yeah, I know. This'll be fun." The first challenge, raw strength. The first test was simple, a traditional Smirk strength trial. A massive steel block, weighing nearly 600 kilograms, was placed in the center of the training ground. The Smirk warriors took their turns first. Vec went first, gripping the block with one hand and lifting it over his head like it was made of paper. Tor followed, doing the same with ease. The aliens watching cheered, impressed by their raw power. Then it was Jack's turn. Vec smirked, stepping back. "Go ahead, human. Show us your strength." Jack walked forward without hesitation. Instead of bending his knees or struggling, he simply wrapped his fingers around the steel block and lifted. The block rose effortlessly. But Jack wasn't done. He adjusted his grip and then did one-handed curls with it. The crowd went silent. Vec and Tor stared in disbelief. "That is not possible," Vec muttered. Jack casually tossed the block to the side, letting it crash into the ground. "That all you got?" The second challenge, endurance. Humiliated, the Smirk twins doubled down. "Strength is not everything." Tor snapped. "Let us see how long you can last in high gravity." A gravity field was activated, increasing the weight of everything inside by 10 times. The Smirk warriors moved around easily, unfazed by the crushing force. Jack rolled his shoulders and stepped in. The moment he entered the field, the pressure hit him. His body felt heavier. Every breath was harder. The Smirk twins grinned. "Now let us see how." But Jack didn't collapse. He didn't even slow down. Instead, he started doing push-ups. One, then another, then another. With one hand, The moment, they regretted everything. Vec and Tor watched in horror. Humans were not supposed to last in extreme gravity. They were not supposed to be this strong. Jack kept going, unfazed. He glanced up at them with a smirk. "You guys tired yet?" The crowd exploded in cheers. The Smirk twins tensed, realization dawning in their eyes. Jack Carter wasn't just a soldier. He was a human. And humans, they didn't just survive impossible odds. They thrived. "Round 3, Jack asked, standing up. "Or are you gonna quit?" The Smirk twins swallowed hard. For the first time in their lives, they regretted ever mocking human strength. The strength of endurance. The gravity field remained active, pressing down on the training ground like an invisible force. The Smirk twins, Vec and Tor, stood frozen, their expressions a mix of shock and frustration. Jack Carter had not only lifted the impossible, but he had survived the high-gravity test without breaking a sweat. And now, he was smirking. The Smirk's last hope. Combat. Tor clenched his fists, his thick, armored knuckles cracking like shattering rock. "Enough games, human. Strength alone means nothing in a real fight." Vec nodded, stepping forward. "Our species has ruled the combat circuits for over a century. You may be strong, but you cannot outfight us." Jack Carter tilted his head. Then he grinned. "You want to bet?" The alien crowd erupted, cheering for what was about to happen. The Smirk were warriors, trained since birth in hand-to-hand combat. Humans were known for their tactics, their unpredictability. But in a straight fight, no one believed Jack Carter had a chance. But Jack, he wasn't just confident. He was excited. The fight begins. The arena was cleared. A wide metallic platform rose from the floor, forming a perfect combat ring. Jack stretched his arms, rolling his shoulders. Vec and Tor removed their combat armor, revealing thick, scaled muscles underneath. Their clawed hands flexed, their golden eyes locked on Jack. "We will not hold back, human," Vec warned. Jack smirked, raising his fists. "Neither will I." The bell rang. The fight began. The first hit. Tor moved first. He was fast, too fast for something his size. A blur of motion, a heavy fist swinging straight for Jack's head. The human soldier had no time to block. But he didn't need to. He dodged. A simple step, so effortless, so perfectly timed, that Tor's fist swung into empty air. The Smirk warrior stumbled forward, caught off balance. The audience gasped. Jack grinned. "You punch slow, big guy." Tor roared in frustration. "I was going easy." Jack cracked his knuckles. "Well, don't." A lesson in human speed. Vec launched his own attack. This time, it was a rapid combination of kicks and punches, far more refined than Tor's brute force approach. But Jack, he weaved through the blows like water. Every punch that came his way, dodged. Every kick, deflected. Vec growled in frustration. "Stand still and fight." Jack laughed. "Why would I do that? I'm having fun." Tor tried to grab him. Jack sidestepped, placing a hand on Tor's back and shoving. The massive Smirk stumbled again. The crowd murmured in shock. The Smirk twins were bigger, stronger, heavier. But Jack was faster, and worse. He wasn't even tired. The moment, they regretted everything. Vec and Tor regrouped, their breathing heavier. Jack, still smirking. "You guys done warming up?" Vec gritted his teeth. "Enough. We finished this now." The twins charged at the same time. Jack's smile vanished. He moved, faster than anyone expected. He sidestepped Tor's charge, dodged Vec's punch, and countered. His fist drove into Tor's ribs with explosive force. A deep, thunderous crack echoed across the arena. Tor collapsed. The audience went silent. Vec froze. Tor, Tor gasped for air, his massive body shaking. For the first time in his life, he had been hit so hard he couldn't stand. Jack Carter rolled his shoulders. One down. One to go. The final blow. Vec roared, charging in pure rage. Human. Jack stayed calm. Vec swung his strongest punch. Jack caught it. The entire crowd gasped. Vec's massive fist was locked in Jack's grip, unmoving. Jack tightened his hold. The Syric's eyes widened. Impossible. Jack pulled him forward and drove a knee straight into Vec's stomach. The air exploded from his lungs. Vec collapsed beside his brother. The Scyric twins, warriors of legend, undefeated across the galaxy, had lost. The aftermath. The arena was dead silent. Aliens stared in pure disbelief. Jack Carter stood over the fallen Scyric warriors, barely sweating. He looked down at them, shaking his head. You guys had the wrong idea about humans. Tor groaned. How? Vec gasped. No species is like this. Jack knelt beside them, his voice calm but firm. You think strength is just about muscle. But humans, we adapt. We endure. We don't stop. The Scyric twins exchanged a look. The realization hit them like a punch to the chest. They had never respected humans. They had thought them weak. And yet, they had just been defeated by a human who hadn't even used his full strength. Vec swallowed hard. Sergeant Carter, will you train us? Jack smiled. You sure you can keep up? The Scyric twins nodded slowly. For the first time in their lives, they understood the true strength of humanity. The challenger appears. The arena remained silent. The Scyric twins, once feared across the galaxy, lay on the ground, defeated. Jack Carter stood over them, barely breathing hard. The alien crowd stared in disbelief. Humans weren't supposed to be this strong. They weren't supposed to be this fast. And they definitely weren't supposed to win against Scyric warriors. And yet, here he was, unshaken, unbeaten, unstoppable. But then, a new voice cut through the silence. This fight is not over. Jack's smirk faded. He turned toward the voice and felt the temperature in the arena drop. A new challenger had arrived. And this one was stronger than any Scyric. The Dark Titan enters. The crowd parted as a massive figure entered the combat ring. 7 feet tall, thick armor plating fused to his skin. A predator's gleaming red eyes locked onto Jack. He was not Scyric. He was Korath, a species known as living weapons. Their bodies were built for war. Their bones were stronger than steel. Their muscles could crush boulders like sand. Jack exhaled. You gotta be kidding me. The Korath warrior, known only as Varkan, spoke with a voice like thunder. Human, I watched you humiliate the Scyric, but I am not Scyric. Jack glanced down at the Scyric twins, who were still recovering. Tor looked up at him, his expression panicked. Sergeant Carter, don't fight him. Varkan stepped forward, stronger than anything you have ever faced. The alien crowd roared in excitement. This was the real fight. The Scyric were warriors, but the Korath, they were monsters. A new type of battle. Jack rolled his shoulders, keeping his eyes on Varkan. So what's the deal? You want to prove something too? Varkan nodded. I want to test humanity. You are different from the others, but are you truly worthy? Jack smirked. Only one way to find out. The Korath warrior raised his fists. His body shifted slightly, the armor plates moving to reinforce his stance. Jack noticed something immediately. Varkan wasn't just strong. He was a trained fighter. This wasn't a bar brawl. This was a war. The arena lights dimmed. The Korath cracked his knuckles. We fight until one of us cannot stand. The bell rang, and the real battle began. First strike, and the first mistake. Varkan moved first. Unlike the Zyric, he was fast. Jack barely had time to react before a massive fist came straight for his ribs. He dodged, but just barely. The force of the attack created a shockwave, sending dust and debris flying. Jack gritted his teeth. "Damn, you hit hard." Varkan didn't respond. He just kept coming. Another punch. Jack dodged. A low kick. Jack jumped back. A sudden backfist. Jack barely blocked it. This was different. Varkan wasn't just swinging wildly. He was controlling the fight. Jack grinned. "All right, big guy. My turn." The unbreakable human spirit. Jack rushed forward. He ducked under a punch, stepped inside Varkan's range, and hit him with everything he had. A right hook cracked against the Karath's ribs. A spinning kick slammed into his armored side. A brutal elbow strike straight to the jaw. The arena shook. Varkan took a full power combination and didn't move. Jack stepped back. His fists ached. "Ha!" Varkan smiled. That was impressive. Then he swung, and Jack barely had time to react before he was hit. The moment everything changed. The punch connected. Jack felt his entire body leave the ground. It wasn't just a punch. It was like getting hit by a truck. His vision blurred. His mind screamed. And then he hit the wall. Hard. The crowd exploded. Jack groaned, coughing out blood. For the first time in years, he was actually hurt. The Zyric twins stared in horror. "That should have killed him," Vec whispered. But Jack, he got up. Slowly, painfully. But he stood. Varkan narrowed his eyes. "You should not be standing." Jack spat blood onto the ground. Then he grinned. "Yeah, then you don't know humans very well." The arena fell silent. Because the fight was far from over. The unbreakable fighter. The arena was silent. Jack Carter wiped the blood from his lip and grinned. Across from him, Varkan, the Karath warrior, stood completely unharmed. He had punched Jack so hard, the human had flown across the arena and crashed into a steel wall. By all logic, Jack should be unconscious. By all logic, Jack should not be standing. And yet he was. And that was the moment Varkan felt something strange, a feeling he had never experienced before. Doubt. The fear of the unstoppable. The crowd whispered, their voices filled with disbelief. He should be broken. How is he still fighting? Is this human endurance? Varkan studied Jack carefully. The human stance was still solid. His breathing controlled. His eyes still burning with the will to fight. Varkan clenched his fists. This human, he was dangerous. The next exchange, Jack cracked his neck and took a deep breath. Okay, that actually hurt. Varkan tilted his head. You are at your limit, human. Accept defeat. Jack grinned. Oh, buddy, I haven't even started yet. And then, Jack moved, faster than anyone expected. He launched himself forward, closing the distance in an instant. Varkan barely had time to react before Jack's fist slammed into his ribs. A single, devastating punch. The shockwave rippled across the arena. Varkan staggered. His massive body lurched to the side. What? Another punch. Jack's elbow smashed into Varkan's jaw. Then a knee, driven into his stomach. Varkan stumbled back. The crowd gasped. The Karath warrior, who had never lost a fight, was being pushed back by a human. The hidden strength of humanity. Varkan gritted his teeth. He was stronger than this human. He was faster. He was more durable. And yet, Jack Carter was still fighting like he had just started. What are you? Varkan growled. Jack exhaled, rolling his shoulders. You thought I'd go down after one hit. That's your mistake. Human strength isn't just muscle. It's will. Varkan's eyes narrowed. Jack grinned. And my will is unbreakable. The war of attrition. Varkan lunged. This time, he didn't hold back. His strikes came like lightning. Fast, precise, lethal. A devastating punch to Jack's ribs. A bone-crushing elbow to his shoulder. A brutal kick to his thigh. Each strike should have crippled him. But Jack didn't fall. He absorbed the damage, endured, and kept coming. The alien crowd fell into stunned silence. This wasn't a fight anymore. It was a war of willpower. Varkan growled. Why won't you fall? Jack gritted his teeth, sweat dripping down his face. Because I'm human. And humans don't stop. The final clash. Varkan's muscles tensed. His armor shifted, glowing faintly. I will end this now. Jack exhaled. Bring it. Both fighters rushed forward. The crowd held their breath. This was it. The final exchange. Varkan swung with all his power, his fist moving like a meteor. Jack ducked. At the last second, he sidestepped and countered. His fist connected directly with Varkan's jaw. A punch so powerful, it sounded like a thunderclap. Varkan's massive frame lifted off the ground. He flew backward, crashing into the steel wall. The impact shook the entire arena. Silence. Smoke filled the air. The crowd watched in shock. Then, Varkan's body slumped forward. He did not stand up. Jack Carter had won. The galaxy reacts. The arena remained dead silent. Then, slowly, the first cheers erupted. It started as a whisper, then a roar. The entire stadium erupted in a deafening cheer. The human dolly won. He be aka warrior. Impossible. Varkan groaned, blinking slowly. He tried to stand, but his body refused to move. I lost. He looked up. Jack Carter stood above him, bruised, bleeding, exhausted, but still standing, still unbroken. Varkan took a shaky breath. And then, he did something no Karath had ever done before. He bowed. Human, you are stronger than I imagined. You have my respect. Jack grinned. Took you long enough. The crowd cheered even louder. The legend of human endurance had just been proven to the entire galaxy. And the Karath. For the first time in history, they feared humans. The warlord descends. Then the ground trembled. The air grew heavy. A massive drop pod smashed into the battlefield, sending shockwaves in all directions. The doors hissed open. And out stepped High Warlord Khazur. Enough. The battlefield froze. The human soldiers held their breath. Even the Karath warriors stepped back, because Khazur was unlike anything they had ever seen. 7 feet tall. His armor fused to his skin. His red eyes burned like dying stars. Jack exhaled. Well, took you long enough. Khazur stepped forward. You are the one they call Jack Carter. Jack smirked. You're damn right I am. Khazur's voice rumbled like thunder. I have come to end you. Jack cracked his knuckles. You can try. And then, they charged. The ultimate showdown. Khazur swung first. A punch strong enough to shatter steel. Jack dodged, barely. The force of the attack sent debris flying. Jack countered. A brutal right hook. It connected, but Khazur barely flinched. Impressive. The warlord moved faster than a beast his size should. Jack barely had time to react before a knee drove into his ribs. Crack. Pain exploded through Jack's body. He staggered, but didn't fall. Khazur frowned. You should not be standing. Jack wiped the blood from his mouth. Yeah. Then you don't know humans very well. The final move. Khazur launched forward. Jack braced himself. The warlord swung his strongest attack, a devastating downward punch. Jack stepped inside the strike. and countered. A full-force uppercut to Khazur's jaw. The air shook. The warlord's head snapped back. His massive form staggered. For the first time, Khazur was dazed. Jack didn't hesitate. He grabbed the warlord by the throat, and with everything he had left, lifted him off the ground. The crowd gasped. Human soldiers cheered. Khazur's eyes widened. Impossible. Jack grinned. Not impossible. Just human. And then, he slammed Khazur into the ground. The end of the war. Khazur didn't move. The battlefield fell silent. The Karath warriors stared in horror. Their warlord had fallen. Jack stood over him, bloodied but victorious. Your move. For the first time in history. The Karath warriors kneeled. Jack exhaled. The war was over. Humanity had won. The legend of Jack Carter. The battle had ended, but the galaxy had changed forever. Jack Carter wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was a legend. The Karath warlords withdrew, swearing an oath of respect. The Zyric twins pledged allegiance to humanity. And across the galaxy, one message spread like wildfire. Never underestimate a human. Jack Carter sat on the battlefield, looking up at the sky. He was tired. He was sore. And he really, really wanted a beer. Lieutenant Reyes sat beside him. So, what now? Jack smirked. We rest. And then we get ready. The end. Because the galaxy just learned what humans can do. And they won't stay quiet for long. The war was over. But the legend of Jack Carter was just beginning. The first strike. The countdown to war had begun. The Karath Empire had declared humanity an existential threat. Earth's colonies were now targets. Human warships were on high alert. And Jack Carter, he was at the center of it all. But the war hadn't started yet. Because first, they had to kill Jack Carter, the assassin in the dark. Jack stood in the Velari outpost, looking up at the sky. The Karath war fleet was still hours away. But something felt wrong. A chill ran down his spine. His instincts screamed. Something was coming. Then, the lights flickered. A whisper in the dark. Jack turned. But it was already too late. A blade slashed through the air. Jack barely dodged. A flash of silver armor moved too fast to see. A Karath assassin. The deadliest Karath. The figure landed silently, its glowing red eyes locked onto Jack. Unlike the massive warlords, this one was lean, built for speed. A ghost in the shadows. Jack rolled his shoulders. I was wondering when you'd send someone after me. The assassin didn't respond. Instead, it rushed forward, silent, deadly. Jack blocked the first strike, but the second sliced across his ribs. Pain flared. The Karath was faster than anything he'd ever faced. But Jack Carter was done playing defense. The hunter becomes the hunted. Jack pivoted, sidestepped another attack. His mind processed the assassin's movements. Fast, precise, relies on speed over power. Jack smirked. Bad news, buddy. Humans adapt. The assassin lunged. But this time, Jack was ready. He dodged, just barely. Then countered. A brutal punch straight to the assassin's ribs. Crack. The Karath stumbled. Its eyes flashed with something new. Surprise. Fear. Jack wiped the blood from his lip. Not so fun when your target hits back, huh? The final move. The assassin snarled, leaping backward, preparing for a final death blow. Its twin daggers glowed with energy. Jack grinned. I was hoping you'd try that. As the assassin lunged, Jack sidestepped and grabbed its wrist. Twist. Snap. The dagger dropped. Jack caught it midair and drove it straight through the assassin's chest. Silence. The Karath warrior stiffened, then collapsed. Jack exhaled, stepping over the body. Next time, send someone better. Then his communicator buzzed. The war was about to begin. The invasion begins. In orbit above the planet, the first Karath warships arrived. Thousands, more than Earth's entire fleet combined. The lead warship's commander sent a single message: "Surrender your strongest warrior, or your planet burns." Jack Carter grinned. "Tell them I am on my way." This wasn't just a war. This was a statement. And Jack Carter was about to show the galaxy why humans never surrender. The final stand. The Karath war fleet hung over the planet, blotting out the sky. Thousands of warships. Millions of soldiers. And they were here for one reason: to erase humanity. Jack Carter stood on the battlefield, watching as the first wave descended. His body ached from the assassination attempt. His ribs were bruised, his knuckles bloodied. But his mind, clear, focused, unbreakable. The galaxy had made one critical mistake. They thought humans would surrender. They thought Jack Carter would surrender. They were about to learn otherwise. The sky burns. The first Karath warships entered the atmosphere, their weapons charging. Earth's defense grid activated. Laser turrets roared to life. Missiles launched from underground silos. Human warships rushed to intercept. The sky became a battlefield. Jack turned to his squad, the best soldiers Earth had to offer. "All right, boys, we hold the line, no matter what." His second-in-command, Lieutenant Reyes, grinned. "They picked the wrong planet to mess with." Jack nodded. "Damn right they did." Then, the first Karath warriors landed. The unstoppable human resistance. The Karath soldiers charge, their massive forms towering over the human defenders. Friedlich them. A normal species would have broken. A weaker species would have run. But humans, they fought back. Jack led the charge, his rifle barking fire. One shot. A Karath warrior dropped. Another shot. A second collapsed. Then a third, a fourth. Jack tossed his empty gun aside. This was his kind of fight. He grabbed a Karath soldier by the throat, slammed him to the ground, and snapped his neck. A second warrior swung. Jack ducked. He countered with a brutal uppercut. "You guys are strong, but we're stronger." The battle raged. And against all odds, humanity was winning. The warlords take notice. The galaxy had changed. One moment, humans were seen as weak. The next, a single human soldier had defeated a Karath warrior in direct combat. That was not supposed to happen. And now, the warlords had taken notice. The aftermath of an impossible victory. Jack Carter stood in the center of the arena, still catching his breath. Varkan, the once undefeated Karath warrior, remained kneeling before him, his massive form still reeling from defeat. The crowd was going wild. "The human W1. He defeated. This chi-changes, everything." Jack wiped the sweat from his brow, looking down at Varkan. "You good, big guy." Varkan exhaled, slowly rising.